Okay, we're going to look at a landmine barbell overhead press done specifically in a way that not only builds some solid strength through the serratus anterior and rotator cuff musculature, but also allows us to develop some more genuine shoulder flexion. So oftentimes when we see somebody go through shoulder flexion functionally, we'll see a very early deviation outside of this sagittal plane into internal rotation. So instead of a clean shoulder flexion here, where the glenoid cavity is facing in front, we'll see this deviation. And if you're a calisthenics athlete, for instance, somebody who enjoys doing handstand push-ups, if you're unable to keep that scapular protraction as you move through shoulder flexion, you're going to have a difficult time creating that stable base to press from, and you might lose efficiency in the movement. And this is why traditional banded exercises that are very low intensity in nature for the rotator cuff or the serratus anterior just typically don't transfer as well to these more complex closed chain strength movements. This is why I really like this exercise. So I'm going to demonstrate this in a half kneeling variation. You can of course do this standing, but for the sake of the video, so I can fit everything in frame, we'll do half kneeling. So to start off, I want to create as much flexion through the spine as possible to facilitate more scapular protraction. So bringing the ribs down. Now from here, I'm keeping the elbow forward as I press. Now I'm only going to press as high as I can maintain my humerus here through the sagittal plane. Okay, if I want to go all the way overhead, I'll have this deviation, right, into internal rotation. The glenoid cavity will start to face the outside, and I'm losing that protraction, and my scapula is almost retracting here. So stay rounded and press from this range, and automatically you're going to feel a huge pump through the serratus anterior in here, just after a few reps. Now, a common compensation that we'll see happen as well is to keep that humerus in the sagittal plane. You'll either see that deviation into internal rotation, and the elbow pit will spin toward the inside, or what you'll see is the thoracic spine will rotate away. So it'll be something like this. Now, to prevent that from happening, we want to press while thinking about turning the opposite side shoulder toward that working side shoulder, just to prevent that rotation away. So slight turn. So that's the barbell landmine overhead press with a scapular protraction focus. Just to be clear, there's nothing wrong functionally with deviating outside of the sagittal plane to get the arms overhead. The humerus actually needs to internally rotate, and the scapula needs to wrap around the rib cage to achieve that full overhead flexion. But the goal of this drill specifically is to delay that internal rotation for as long as possible to prevent that early elbow flare, which will ideally increase efficiency in the movement, especially pressing, and it'll be a much safer and stable position to press from.